Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Games and Simulations Network presentation of ISTE 2014 Post-Conference Review. So we have a few people with us today. So on Hangout today, we have Kay Novak. You gonna wave, Kay?
Yeah.
There she is. Myself, Chris Lukes. Hello, everyone. We also have Tanya Martin. Also
Hi.
a great jumper. And we have Joseph Doan.
Hello, I'm the one with the bug eye.
And will be in need of eye drops by the end of this presentation. We also have Vasily, and we're just going to say G, also better known as Blue.
Hi guys.
I can say Gianuzzu, but I think it's close, but not quite there.
It's okay, no worries.
We also have Trish Cloud.
Hi.
And we have Christina Tonis.
Hello, hello. I'm not really reading this book.
And we have Marie B. I'm not going to try. And last but not least, we have Andrew Peterson, or as we like to call him, Tall Guy.
Howdy, good evening.
Tall and kind of quiet guy.
But he likes to loom over you, that's all. So first we're going to start off with games and simulation from the front. And then we're going to sort of talk about what we've seen. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kay.
Okay, then go ahead and hit the slides. Well, first of all, we all ended up in Atlanta. And this is a picture out of one of the hotel windows. And this is basically the area for the conference center. And this was the conference center, which is abbreviated as GWCC. And does anybody know what that abbreviation stands for?
Yes.
And what
Georgia World Conference Center.
Okay. I wasn't doing a quiz. I just can't remember it. That's really what it was.
Actually, I think it's actually Congress.
Congress.
Not
Congress.
Congress Conference Center.
Keep going. And so here's the thing. It's a report from the front because we were really there. We were checking things out. And as you'll see, we were really in the mix. We were staffing the tables. We were doing poster sessions. We were doing presentations. So we pretty much, what we're going to be telling you about is what we heard, what we saw, and a little bit of critical analysis also on our part too. Go ahead. Okay, so our trends and takeaways, and Chris, feel free to, why don't you announce them, and then we'll all jump in, and
Sure.
and especially me, I'll jump in. But you have the announcer voice. So let's go with you.
So one of the first trends we had was Minecraft. Minecraft everywhere. That really was one of the big events we saw here at the ISTE conference, was a reinvigoration, or I should say a
reinvigoration. I don't think it stopped.
The continuation of
Yes.
Minecraft mania has struck ISTE. So pictured there is Trish. Trish was swamped by people asking about everything ranging from how do I start a Minecraft club to how do I get it at my schools to what are you doing with it, and Trish can probably say some of the other questions some of the common questions you were asked.
I found it to be a lot of what are you doing and how did you get started. But I think the biggest thing I saw was the surprise from adults that the kids loved it that much. And then that realization that they could take something that kids like that much and use it for educational purposes and could really turn it into a learning tool that could still be fun, but at the same time teach digital citizenship, how to act in virtual environments. They could use it for geometry, social studies, or whatever. And that realization, it was like the dots were being connected in a lot of people's minds at ISTE, and finally light bulbs were going on.
One of the unique connections I saw, I don't know if you can hear me any better now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Good. They were actually using Minecraft as a 3D modeling for printers.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that was a unique convergence of kind of the 3D modeling and the virtual environment that I saw there.
And for me, here's the big difference I saw between this year and like some other years. This wasn't a, you're right, Trish. It really was. They got that the students and the kids love it. It's like you don't have to convince them of that anymore. They got it. And now, well, instead of like, oh, kids can use this and do wonderful things, you don't have to tell them that part anymore. The part now, it just seemed to be they were going, you're right, they wanted to know how to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I really saw, and that's what I saw you being mobbed at the tables. And I know like me and like what Blue, Vasily,
Mob.
or jumping. And I mean that picture was like us standing away, but you were like surrounded with that so much that your entourage had to jump in and answer some easy questions.
You held the egg real well.
Yes.
Yes.
There is some triage going on. Yes.
The only time I've ever tanked.
And you were tanking that. And for everybody listening, what it means is that she was, she had the attention. She was answering questions. She was keeping everybody's focus and giving them what they wanted. And she did that in the mobile playground and also in the virtual environments playground also.
And those playgrounds were really fantastic for hearing from Trish what she was doing, but also there were a lot of side conversations going on. It was just a great opportunity for a lot of people to talk about what they were doing with Minecraft or with other related tools. So that those playgrounds were one of the highlights of the conference for me.
Oh yeah, I agree. They really were. So Minecraft, we're not even counting in it as a trend, right? Because it was so big, it just dwarfs everything else.
But it also falls in with our first trend, which is games, game-based learning, and gamification. A lot of questions about games. Is there a list of games for specific disciplines? How can I use game-based learning? How can I gamify my class? We had interesting discussions, I guess we'll call them, about what's the difference between gamification and game-based learning. So Kay can do your normal 30-second pitch there.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking about we at the Mobile Mega Share, which was 4 hours pre-conference. This was kind of our theme, and this continued throughout the conference. People talking about just getting a quick definition of what's going on. And that a game is a win and a loss scenario. You play, and there's a win and a loss scenario. Game-based learning is using a game for teaching and for learning, while gamification is taking a layer of game mechanics and put it on something that's essentially not a game. But we got lots of questions when it came to that about not exactly what the difference was. They weren't asking what's the difference between these three things. It was more about what is, and then fill in the blank.
Okay. So our next trend is augmented reality. Definitely saw a lot of mobiles out. People running around with their iPads and QR codes. Everyone seemed to be very, very comfortable with QR codes, at least the educators that were at conferences. No one was asking me, what are these little black boxes for? They automatically broke out their phone and broke out their iPads and went ahead and grabbed all the QR codes we gave. So definitely we're used to doing the augmented reality. We saw some people playing around with a couple of different apps for that as well. We also participated in an app. I think we might talk about that a little bit later in the presentation.
Sure. Anybody else want to jump in what they saw when it came to augmented reality?
I wasn't sure if the Oculus Rift was part of this, or was that part of Wearables? Because that was kind of popular.
I think it can. I don't know. I mean Oculus Rift. Well, I think we got to put it in here. Got to put it in here somewhere.
It falls into a little bit of both.
Yeah. I mean, usually augmented reality means a layer on top of the real world that you can like pull out with a phone or something like that. While Oculus Rift is more virtual reality, but we definitely saw that showing up too.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a little bit about Erasmus, which
at the very end, the one on this is not a game.
Oh yeah, we did.
We need alternate reality, yes.
Yes. We were using augmented reality for that too. And Cam, you were about to say something?
Well, at the mobile learning playground,
Yeah.
I listened in on a fellow talking about how to use Erasma, and I know we talked a little bit about Erasma being finicky sometimes, but it was nice to get a chance to hear from someone like exactly how to use it to create an aura, and I still feel like there's a lot of potential there. I feel like it would be a really exciting tool to use to put learning into the environment around us.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that I mean, here's the thing. We saw and that people were comfortable with augmented reality. It wasn't like they were taking it to the next step much yet, and using it in a game. Or sending developing a game or sending students out on a game to do this. They weren't quite there doing that yet.
Yeah, I think I noticed that. I want to speak to what Ken was just talking about, and I think for many of the attendees, they really enjoyed that part because I'm kind of convinced that they've never done anything like that before. So having someone take them to the step, I actually saw on their face that they were basically amazed at what they were able to do. So I'm seeing that as kind of like the first step, towards what we're talking about. So it's beginning to get a lot of mass and momentum. I think moving to advance augmented reality more, and eventually, hopefully, they'll get into the gaming part too.
Yeah,
I also heard some conversations about having kids develop augmented reality layers and develop augmented reality games. They're already learning a lot of systems work through building computer games and board games and whatnot, but being able to bring that out into their world and their neighborhoods was kind of an interesting conversation as well.
Yeah, and I would agree with Izzy. I'd agree with the fact that at ISTE, 3-4 years ago, you still would have seen augmented reality, but you wouldn't have seen so much of it, and you wouldn't have seen as much of an interest in it.
Yeah, I think you also see a lot of confusion if it was, for example, 2-3 years ago. They hear about it, and then you get that I'm lost look. Whereas I think this year, I saw I'm excited look because they were actually showing each other what they just had finished doing while they were being led through this little tutorial. So I think, like most time, once you do it yourself and you experience yourself, then you actually realize it much more. It's a little bit like when I first introduced someone to Second Life. They really can't they can't wrap their mind around it. But then they go away and they, for instance, the one faculty I had showed it to her grandson, and the grandson went in there and used it. And then the way that the grandson reacted actually was the trigger that caused her to finally understand what it was about.
No, and look at that picture. and I'm seeing obviously that some things are going to bleed into each other.
Yeah, I think they are, especially with the Oculus Rift. Andrew just posted in our chat that a lot of people wanted selfies with Oculus Rift.
And this is obviously not a selfie of Trish. Why? Because selfies, you would see the shoulder upraised. You can always tell. You see that upraised shoulder. This obviously was somebody else taking a picture of her. But the thing of it is, everything's bleeding into everything else, which is kind of cool. And it's really fun to see the games kind of getting. They're not ubiquitous. I know we got a long way to go, but that they're bleeding into a lot more things than they were before.
And they're being accepted in those different realms too.
Yes.
I think that's a critical part because they've always been trying to tiptoe into these different areas.
Oh yeah.
And that brings us to Oculus Rift is a good segue into wearable tech and mobile tech.
Yes, it is.
Because that's really what we saw a lot of. We saw a lot of mobile. We saw a lot of discussion of wearable. We had a lot of discussion of how did you bring this into your class? What design components? How did you come up with this project, or how did you come up with this assignment to get them to go ahead and play with these pieces? So we saw a lot of discussion there. We had a lot of people comparing their steps while they were there. So we had some of the fitness wearable tech that was there. So we had a lot of people playing around with that and going ahead and discussing how that impacts them and how that impacts how they're going about their day. So a lot of the mobile tech was a discussion there. We saw Google Glass. Kat Flippin did a bunch of presentations on Google Glass, and that's what Trish is wearing there in that selfie, or at least someone else's photo snap of her. I don't know. She doesn't have that sort of like look up. She doesn't have the duck lips or anything like that, but she's sort of like looking up and thinking about it. So Google Glass was there, but only a few people had Google Glasses. I saw about 8 to 10 pair running around, but I didn't see a lot of them.
Even the ISTE app itself, as far as a technology and game-based and having that networking, the social networking component to it, is pretty pervasive.
And Chris, might you happen to? The other thing that showed up a lot was like wearable and mobile tech was like the quantification things, like how many steps are you taking, and the different Fitbits and stuff like that. Might you have a Fitbit around or something like that?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
It is sitting over there on my other computer. So.
But that was really, we found that to be really popular, and we were also able to use it as a great example of gamification when we needed to. That the Fitbit gives you a little happy face. That it counts the number of steps you take. It counts those as points. You're continually trying to do that with you, and that was one of the other examples of wearable tech that we got to see.
Well, what's funny with the Fitbit is that people are like, "Oh, I was thinking about buying it," and they're like, "But can I have this one?"
Yeah.
No.
and I believe that Cam is now currently sharing her Steps Mania one with us.
Yes, it looks like.
And the thing of it is, in the mobile MegaShare playground, this became a topic of discussion and a way that the way that the teachers could relate to how people are doing gamification and pointification. That this is something that could be thought about.
Yeah, I just brought up the Steps Mania app that Grit and I have been using to count our steps and earn awards. I just got another couch potato award, I'm sorry to say.
Oh.
A little bit too much screen time.
I tried to pull it up. It wasn't locked in my distance.
Oh, and Zombie Run, yes, that was another popular one for a lot of people, was using Zombie Run for their fitness. So lots of games.
The Zombie Run app, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, I think Andrew's showing us something.
I was going to say, I don't know if my phone can show it.
Just tilt it a little differently.
It's sad because I've had 155 steps today.
Aww.
Oh, I know you're like, now you're back on
campus. A lot of computer work today.
Andrew, which app?
This is actually, it's called Withings. It's linked to my scale, so my scale has Wi-Fi. And
That's scary.
It's the first time I've ever had to configure a scale.
Yes.
Well,
next step is to teach it to lie. So.
I read a quote of Moonwalker Awards, actually. The Moonwalker Awards are walking 1,000 steps between midnight and 1 a.m., and I probably had at least 4 of those.
Wow.
Does that count the time that we were walking in the middle of the night?
At the conference?
Yeah, the conference.
Award. Yes, Blue. The Moonwalker Award.
Oh my goodness.
So what's our next one?
So next up we have
Wire refrigerators. No.
Yeah, really tech expectations, or I guess Kate tried to coin a new term here, tech expectations.
In my head it was expectations, but that's okay.
Okay. But online learning, basically online and games, so there's an expectation that anything online or tech is automatically value added and not a mere necessity. So what's interesting about this is that there was the assumption that if you were providing online content, it had to be better quality and probably a bit more robust than what the average instructor could provide in their classroom. So they definitely was seeing the online as a resource, as well as the games and the pieces that were there. So there's a lot of expectation that comes with if you're implementing technology then everything has to go really, really smoothly. And
I don't think that was exactly it. I think the discussion that we had was that for online or anybody who's going to be adopting technology or something, at least from the teachers that were there, if they were going to add something to their classroom that was technology or online, it was going to be good, better, best. They weren't they weren't looking at anything that just to help standardize just a little bit. Everybody was really looking for the big value that technology and games could bring. That's the big difference that I saw. There weren't too many discussions about another LMS or how's that Excel spreadsheet going? Have you that kind of stuff? Everything was extremely high value.
One of the things that I've been hearing a lot is it's not so much about the tool, it's what you're using the tool for, and that the way that we're kind of looking at it is, whether they're playing Minecraft on a mobile device or whether they're playing Minecraft on a computer, it's their agility, their ability to adapt to whatever device they have at that time, because that seems to help them understand it's not about the tool, it's about what the tool is doing.
Okay, so are you saying more about our students being fluent and being able to go basically use transmedia, that they can go from platform to platform to platform?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was seeing that as expected, even though there did end up being a discussion in ISTE Connects about single signer login. At least for me, on the boots on the ground at the conference, the teachers who were coming up, the people doing PD, the technology coordinators were coming up, and if technology was going to happen, they wanted value added.
Right.
Well, exactly that, and the other big thing about this was that when we were talking about all these pieces, everyone's going, now I know what I can do after the standardization tests are done. Like, I can go ahead, I can play with these now. What?
I did hear a lot of conversations talking about supporting student learning after hours and outside of the classroom, and as a much easier way of introducing it. So that if you had a hostile administrator or someone who didn't really see any value in it, you could start the program on a lunch, on a before 0 hour. Some type of outside student group or network with minimal risk.
And I was hearing a lot of that, and Trish, you even got to talk about that a lot, didn't you?
Yes, because 2 years ago when I started my first Minecraft club, it wasn't, Minecraft in school was still not really a heard of type thing, except for Lucas Gillespie and down in Pender County. But in my district, it had not really been heard of. So the way that I got Minecraft introduced to my school was by starting an after-school club, which I still do because the kids still want to come to that. They have that expectation. But at the same time, I now have teachers who are allowing children to do assignments and do projects in Minecraft in the regular curriculum.
Cool. So next up, number 5. Games as conveyors of digital literacy and digital citizenship.
And this one, and I'll jump in. This one I just saw a lot, and other people, please jump in because I know you guys are using this. but this, and the reason why this wasn't like a new trend, I would say this is more of an acceptance that you could state this and no one would question you. Like you could, or you could state this, and the people around you would come up with examples of how it could be used. It wasn't like you were. It was no longer like you were saying the most remarkable statement in the world. That's kind of what I saw there.
I agree, because in fact, I think I mentioned a couple of times to different people that Minecraft is a great place to teach digital citizenship, because you put 15 kids into a virtual world. At some point, you're going to have to explain to them that their behavior in world should not be any different than their behavior in the real world, and that they need to learn to cooperate and collaborate together in Minecraft, just like they have to learn to cooperate and collaborate in their classroom. So the digital literacy, yes, and digital citizenship, yes, because it really does work in the virtual environments.
As soon as you add TNT to any component, I think you're going to have digital citizenship.
Yeah, and 8-year-old boys.
Yep. Someone's going to use it.
Yeah.
So next up we have students can be game designers. So that's the other thing we had. What we saw a lot was a lot of people were talking about how they're having their students use games, and they're sort of designing their own games as well and coming up with things. Probably the one that was most popular obviously was Minecraft, because we keep saying Minecraft over and over again. But that's really where a lot of the examples were coming from. We had some people. We actually had some students there for a little bit during the Venn playground. So we definitely saw that as well. Students can be game designers, and so that was sort of both something we heard from people a lot, and it also was an exclamation from some of our teachers going, wait a minute, I don't have to design all this. I can get my students to do some of this.
Exactly.
One of the roundtables I went to was someone talking about students learning to be game designers using a social studies topic, but the focus was really on game design using GameStar Mechanic. And so I've had heard GameStar Mechanic mentioned in the past, and I was working with an art teacher this spring on looking for a way for kids to design games. And we didn't use that because I wasn't familiar enough with it. So this is a little plug for, if you're interested in GameStar Mechanic, play with it this summer, because I've been doing some of the quests that they have built into it to teach game design, and that's been really helpful for me, but it takes time as an educator to look at that and see then how I would build that in using it with students. But it looks like a great platform, and you can use free accounts, or students can get accounts for $2 for a lifetime account, not like a yearly subscription. But so that was one of the ones I saw.
Yeah, I used GameStar Mechanic with my coding club this past year, and one of the conversations that I had at the Venn playground was the fact that the kids would work on Tinker or Scratch, and then they would switch over to GameStar Mechanic because it gave them a different view of things, and I could hear them making connections as they were learning the sprites or the particular game mechanic that they were putting into their toolbox. They would be saying, oh, I learned how to do this over in Scratch, so this is what this is. And so they were making the connection between coding and game design while they were doing GameStar Mechanic, and it was very popular with students.
And if I can just cut in with Bootstrap World, which it came up in the playground, and the link between the coding and the creating of games. Of course, Bootstrap has their curriculum online, free, pretty transparent company, and the code.org folks are using the Bootstrap curriculum for teaching of algebra and geometry, but the students program, and in their programming they create a game, a video game. Simple game, mind you, but it's kind of like it's all rolled into one. They've got the coding, they've got the game creation, which is the motivation, and and then they've got the geometry and the algebra, which is kind of the objective.
And that actually segues really good, Grid, into our next point, which was teachers as game designers. So we saw a lot of obviously a lot of presenters were talking about the games they design and how they're using games, and also there's the realization as well that, hey, I can also design games as well.
And this is, I saw this a lot in a couple of areas. One, that's how many questions we got about gamification, and we were getting less questions on like give me this basically give me an easy button that I can press and it'll be taken care of. And what we started to see was people going, you know what, maybe I can design a game. And our group presented on, they're called alternate reality games, and Andrew could even jump in here because he works with, he's been doing some stuff with reacting to the past, and it's a bunch of what you would say teachers who are non-game designers designing games. But the thing of it is, even if they were the small murder mystery scavenger hunt kind of games, and you may be using augmented reality, maybe not, that teachers are beginning to understand that they can design games. We had a number of people who are just letting it go and saying, just let the children play, let them design games, and that's really great. Until you think about, hey, as a teacher, what they're doing is kind of they're learning, but it's kind of looking like play. And if you want to get more immersive, teachers have to learn this medium, and they have to learn how to teach and design in it, even if they're letting their students design games. It's more about the difference between being able to coach a student versus standing back and admiring what they did. So we're starting to get more teachers who are going, maybe I can design something, maybe I can gamify something, maybe I can go ahead and come up with a scenario. And Andrew, if you just want to talk for a moment, I'll be
okay. I was just going to say, and one of the key parts of that is not even necessarily designing the game, but still being willing to incorporate a game even though they're not a gamer. So it's kind of that comfort level of playing a game and running a game and being part of that learning environment, even though they themselves might not be a gamer. That's been one of the kind of missing elements that I've seen in game-based learning, is that even though you can see that your students might be talking about Minecraft all day and night, but
yes, they are.
But if you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to incorporate it in your classroom. And that's one thing that really impressed me with reacting to the past, is that you would have a group of teachers or professors who were not necessarily gamers, but were still able to incorporate this game just through the support structure of the materials they provided.
Well, exactly, and that's also one of the things we talked a lot to. The people we talked to was really saying, hey, you really need to play the game yourself, and you need to have a game you're comfortable with as an instructor to use it in your classroom, because if you're not comfortable with it, if you're not familiar with it, your students will inevitably ask you questions, and when they find out you don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, sometimes you can run into some things. We've also been sort of beating around the bush here on this one a lot. Coding and games, again, lots of emphasis on coding, lots of emphasis on how you're bringing coding in the K-8 environment as well as above, and how are we trying to attract students, both boys and girls, to look at coding as something that is accessible by both genders. So, I mean, that's one of the things that we heard some about. NSF has always been looking at trying how do we attract more women to the field of programming and computer science. And I think you guys a lot of our colleagues here have done a lot with coding. I think you guys are doing an awesome job. So I'll turn it over to you guys to talk about what you guys saw in regards to coding and gaming.
So I was in a little pre-conference, unconference session where we were talking about girls in coding and STEM and so forth, and we were talking about how girls and boys sometimes access coding for different purposes. And so, whereas you might want to use an Arduino to build a robot, you might also want to use a LilyPad Arduino to do soft circuits and design. And it's very cool that there is so much now open source based materials that allow young people of either gender to put technology to their own purposes.
And that's, we saw a lot of it. I mean, here's the thing. This year, and coding's been mentioned a little more in other years, but it was more, how can I say this, fringe or just with the computer science, a special interest group. We really saw coding coming out. It came out in the virtual environments playground. It came out in our gaming discussions. It came out in the mobile maker space also. So we just saw a lot more coding out there than we have before.
And it's because it's with code.org and the Hour of Code, coding has become accessible, and it's become accessible to where 4 years ago or even 2 years ago, the thought of an 8-year-old doing something computer sciencey was unheard of, and now with Scratch and Tinker and Code.org and the fact that they use Plants vs. Zombies and Angry Birds, and they show kids how they can code the Angry Bird, it's brought it to a level that 6, 7, 8-year-olds can learn, and particularly with Codable. iPad apps, I mean, everything has just, and Hackadoo, it's now there's just so much there for young kids to learn that by the time they're hitting middle school, they're ready for high school level computer science. So it's just the accessibility that was not there before. It is now there, and you don't need to be afraid of it if you're not a computer science genius, because one of the greatest things is learning it with your students. That's what I do.
Well, exactly, and there's a lot with code.org as well. You see that with some of the pages going through of people sharing different websites they're looking at. So we've already talked about Scratch, we talked about GameStar Mechanics, so lots and lots of different options out there. So number 9, we're sort of repeating ourselves here. Yes, we cheat in a top 10 game as well, a top 10 list as well. So gamification as well. Yes, it was number 1, but it was so nice we had to say it twice. Lots and lots of people going ahead and talking about gamification, how they're gamifying their traditional classing, how they're looking at trying to make really the big focus on here is how do we engage the student. I think that was pretty much across all levels of educators I talked to, all the way from K-12 through post-secondary. It's how do you go ahead and how do you get people? How do you go ahead and get the students' attention? How do you get them engaged? And also we also I think from the instructor standpoint, how do we make the class more engaging for ourselves as well? How do we take a new approach towards the curriculum to think about a new way of teaching a subject in some different options that are out there?
I think I've heard that just as much as from the student engagement, is a lot of times you have kind of that cognitive lock-in of where this is the way I taught it last year, that's the way I'm going to teach it this year. And a lot of times you can kind of get stuck in a rut, and for instructors to kind of break out of that, sometimes a dramatic shift like full gamification seems to be the catalyst.
Yeah.
Well, and what I hear and what I see and what I'm seeing is that they are realizing they no longer can do things the same old way. That truly the sage on the stage is dying a slow death, and you have to be actively engaged, and you've got to find something that's going to engage them, because they've got to have complete buy-in in order for you to get what it is you're trying to get across to them.
Well, exactly, and it was funny about the Sage on Stage method is I had a friend who teaches math at the community college level, and when they found out they really needed to change the way they taught is they were working on a problem and they saw a student working on their phone, and so they were like, okay, well, how do you solve this problem? They saw the student type something in their phone and then read off the perfect solution to what was the problem was, and what the student was is he had pulled up Wolfram Alpha and had gone ahead and done the algebraic equation right then and there. And the teacher's like, I need to change what I do because the quote that I full source of information.
The quote that I loved is, if Google can answer the question, or if Google can provide the answer, you're asking the wrong question.
Exactly. I think that was that's very good. Because I mean, that's the thing about it is there's a lot of change there needed, and I think that's the nice thing about gamification, gives you a chance to look at. And last but not least, go ahead.
Can I just comment on the idea of educators changing, maybe or maybe not just gamification, but at the Librarians Network breakfast and keynote, Jennifer Lagarde was talking about librarians, but she said, there are two kinds of librarians: zombies and zombie fighting librarians. And I think not just librarians. I think it's educators. That there's educators who are zombies and kind of mindlessly stuck in, or just comfortable in what they're used to doing. But we need to all be zombie fighters and embrace new things. Just had to throw that in there. It's not a good hangout without zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Death Knights.
So Joseph, you got a comment?
Yes, actually, I just want to comment a little bit, especially at the higher ed level, because gamification is a little bit more difficult there. But one of the thing that I'm sure if you're in higher ed or you've been in a classroom lately, you probably hear faculty complaining about students spending a lot of time on their iPhones or their iPad, right, during lecture. Again, it's lecture, so you drove them there in the first place. But that's where they don't see the potential of, well, your students are going to use their iPhones or their mobile devices, right? So instead of trying to advocate policies of, for example, jamming the internet in the classroom to prevent them from getting online, or coming up with policies that they, will try to bug anyway by saying no electronic device in my course or no laptop. And I can tell you, I've been in class where the instructor actually said, no computers in my classroom. And my first thought is, I do everything on my computer. So you're basically just chopping off my hands there. But, what you can do is, well, some of them, just like what was just said, that, if you actually have activities, and you can call it gamification if you like, where you're actually getting the students to use the devices for your purposes instead of their purposes, you're doing that right there. And I also know of some faculty who actually have changed the way they structure their syllabus. Like, for example, assignments, they're no longer called assignments. They're all quests. And you don't get grades, you get achievements. So if you think about that, that's exactly how they're doing. They're changing the perception that the students have. It's no longer you come in, I give you a lecture or whatever, and then I give you an assignment, you go home, do it, and come back and turn it in. So now it became a little game that they play in the classroom, right? So I just want to add those comments, what's going on at the higher ed level. It's a little bit more difficult than the K through 12 level to implement, but it's happening.
I disagree. I think the mechanics don't make it any harder.
Well, I was going to say that I thought Joseph was going to go in a different direction. I was waiting for him to say that the same faculty that don't allow students on their cell phones and smartphones are the same ones that you can't get off their cell phones in faculty meetings or.
Well, I do that. We all know that happens. You know what I call faculty already.
So next up we have number 10, LAN party. Woohoo!
Okay. So we attempted it. Okay.
Yes, we did.
Hot spots everywhere.
Okay, and a LAN party, all I have to say is Google it or pull it up in Wikipedia so you can get an idea of what a real one is. I think we have some pictures to show you what ours looks like, at least. Okay.
Well, I think that's really what it is, because, the other thing about the LAN I thought was really interesting was I really heard and saw that there was a desire for guided and peer-based study and play and learning, and that's not just students, but that's also with instructors and administrators. Is that there is a big question about going, how do I find a peer group to explore this, and so I'm not doing it all by myself. I'm tired of being isolated. I want to go ahead and find a group. So so we had a LAN party there that was a lot of fun. We also had Clash of Clans.
Okay, and yeah, what I was gonna say, that if you go back, it's we basically, since a number of us play World of Warcraft, that was the major theme of the LAN party, and we did have this in one of the conference rooms. Yeah. And then we had some people who weren't playing that, so what they did, because they didn't have their laptops with them, instead they pulled up their tablets and pulled up Clash of Clans.
And then some people were so industrious while playing the LAN, they actually went ahead and knitted themselves stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, based on the group of educators were there, they just can't just play. They take it further than just playing. And so this would be our example from CAM. And if you don't know what this is, that's the insignia for one of the factions in World of Warcraft. And Cam, what exactly did you knit there?
That's a bag that I brought in that was protecting my laptop with the Horde insignia, and then just a pot holder that I made for fun with our guild insignia there. So fun.
And then it seemed to go even further.
Understyle.
Okay, and then as what happens, like I said, the theme was the metagame, and the metagame is the game outside the game and everything else that happens outside of it. So you saw a great example with Cam, but then you'll also see here, this is Tanya and Vasily, and they came to the LAN party modeling. Well, if you take a look at that tie, that tie is actually a Minecraft diamond tie, and that. Yeah,
Minecraft glasses as well.
Yeah, as I was going to say, it's similar to the necklace. These are Minecraft diamonds. I have there, just so you can see. So the tie is made of diamonds. You can't see the Minecraft glasses that well. And then, while that is not Tanya's jacket, I believe she is modeling Trish's Pandorian monk jacket from World of Warcraft. So, despite the fact that it's a game, the metagame extends it way beyond, as you can see, just the game.
Exactly, and what do we do whenever we're done with all our conferencing and everything else, and it gets into the wee hours of the morning? Well, we have to log on, of course.
Yeah, so this was another impromptu LAN party. And you'll notice Joseph there with his second screen. It's not enough to have the laptop up there. He's also looking at things on his mobile device.
There's also Cheerwine and Fanta.
Yes. So the LAN party, while it was officially in the conference center, it did continue over into the hotel also.
All right. So now we're moving to some new content.
Okay, so very quickly, we want to tell you about some things that were really cool that happened at the conference. The Virtual Education Journal, came out with their ISTE publication, and they normally do games and virtual environments. And if you'll click to the next slide, this is the issue that came out for the conference. And it was all about the metagame.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, feel free to continue.
All right. Next up, we have the EduMachinima. Well, it's going to be Marvel at the cover art that was there. Now we have the EduMachinima Fest.
Yay!
The judging panel.
Oh my God.
So you can see how hard the judges work, and you can tell some of the judges have not seen these yet. So the judges convened over at the Omni Hotel and watched and commented on it. You'll see Chris is there. You'll see he has a clipboard in his hand even.
That makes it science.
And went over and they poured over these videos and poured and poured. 4 hours, and as you can guess, there were lots of Minecraft videos, many.
We were completely oblivious to the Ferris wheel in the background.
So lots of Minecraft videos, and then they debated about who should win, and then they finally found the winners. And I promise, although he looks asleep, he was wide awake for it. Okay?
Well, he has the number one.
He was voting.
So, Grit, we'll turn it over to you. To actually talk about the EduMachinima Fest.
Okay, and if you look at my screen here, you'll see that these are the awards that were given for the Machinima Fest. And you can find the actual links there if anybody is interested in seeing them. Now, they weren't as many winners as we've had in the past. I think that there were a reduced number of categories, and we've also kind of feel that we have to provide a little more guidance to the students. So next year we are going to have, I don't know if it's here. No, it's not here. The next year's theme will be recasting the past. So we're going to start early, like today, to tell students that recasting the past will be the theme, and we will be providing a little bit more guidance. And regardless of what platform they use for their Machinima Fest, that's going to be the theme for it. I also have up here, let me switch my screen. We did a little bit of green screen fun. And, oh gosh, where is it? I do not have the actual green screen, which probably wouldn't make, because that one's not quite done. But if you go to, we did show the green screen, and we did that in one of our playgrounds. If you go to the ISTE community and you go to the Games and Simulation Network, you will see there that there are a bunch of blogs and comments that people, oh my gosh, OptiNet. Okay, let's see this.
Access denied. but what you're trying to say is go to ISTE.org.
Okay, here it is. Here it is.
Cool. Okay, very cool.
Picture of Sherry Bosch of ISTE, and it's a still, but you can see that she's playing with a Minecraft tool inside
World of Warcraft.
So we immersed people into World of Warcraft, and they had all kinds of props, and we will have the actual video up by the end of the week. So
cool.
That was kind of part of the Machinima Fest, was doing green screen and getting people up there. So that was a lot of fun in multimedia.
And the other thing I have to say that we'll be sending out the official certificates and awards later this week also for the Machinima Fest. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so the next thing, and I think this goes to Blue. You are talking about this.
Next,
can we have maybe a couple slides to get him in the mood?
I think you might need a couple slides. I think
okay, well,
he's
first
not
of
quite
all,
ready for it.
Well, let's see. What's the slide? Go ahead.
So first of all, we have the Virtual Environments Playground.
Oh God.
And then there's Blue.
Where did you have these?
You're not on webcam.
He's so serious.
Yes, very serious. It was, we had 10, 12 volunteers who were staffing tables, and it was, now in retrospect, and I had to think about it and had to calm down, it was really good. The people that came were really interested. We had the Minecraft people, we had people who were asking about OpenSim, Oculus Rift, and it was just great to hear everybody talking and having people showing interest, because virtual environments has been something that's been teetering, like, is it something that people like, is it something, oh, this is old news, but then it's like, we're bringing it back. Oculus Rift is all over the place. Thanks to Roxy for bringing that in. It's just been a very great learning experience for everybody, and it's I was
going to say, and if you look at the picture, you'll see Andrew as a guy that's kind of waving off to the side, so you can get an idea of why we call him Tall Guy, okay?
Yeah.
There's Roxy standing up and lifting up the camera to take his picture, okay?
Andrew was a great help for us with the Oculus Rift. He knew lots of things, which was immensely helpful. Here we are, this is the coding table, and we were talking about code.org. We had stickers and pamphlets and cool little things and examples that students have been doing. Tanya was there. Right here on to the side is Mandy. Right? No, wait, yeah.
Laura
Briggs.
Yeah, Laura Briggs is in here.
She's the head of.
You can kind of see Trish off to the side. When
Yeah.
it came to the coding table, all three of them were staffing the coding table during the playground.
It was just lots of people, combined efforts. It was amazing. I'm glad to be working with all these good people. I mean, I can't even begin to explain. And oh, there's a cool World of Warcraft WoW ball. So it looks like people are taking drinks. Izzy's our bartender, and we just have lots of little WoW pictures scattered about. And on the screen there is like someone is inside a World of Warcraft showing Izzy's character, and it's also there's the green screen right there next to it. So we didn't have a picture before, but there's one. And like just people engaging, having conversations, and really being in the mood for it. And it was that one-on-one, that talking that really makes it more special and more important than just going to a presentation and having lots and lots of chairs, and then maybe you might get picked on for the question and answer at the end if they decide to do so. So the playground experience is something you just can't imitate. Izzy, would you like to talk about your World of Warcraft ball?
Sure. I think it was one of the best part that I participated in at the conference, because it's exactly what you said. There was a lot of one-on-one time because of the traffic we had. Like, for example, the lady in the photo there, I had a very long conversation with her because she had a lot of questions. And this is one of the trends that I've seen at this conference compared to last year. And this goes along with what we said before, that there are actually more and more educators that have heard about all of these things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. But now they're at that point where they're comfortable enough to actually want to pursue it and take that next step. So she and I talk, and basically her children play games, right, like Minecraft, World of Warcraft, some other things, and they tell her that they really love it, but she really can't understand why. She couldn't make that connection. So we had a very good, conversation about, well, what do you think about what happens, let's say, for an example, a child, when you give them blocks to play with, they naturally build, and so on and so forth. And they get a sense of achievement out of that, and that's where I spoke about critical thinking, because all those things involve all of that. And Minecraft's another area that she, just like what we said before, had a lot of interest but not a whole lot of knowledge about. So we discussed Minecraft, what's the motivation, what's engaging the students, and how is actually engaging students from kindergarten all the way up to the college level, because we do have some college age students, some are 22, 23, that spend a lot of time in Minecraft, but the attraction and the motivation there for them is that they're expressing their creativity, they're building their environment, so they're able to create. So she's just one example, and the other gentleman that's sitting there with his hand on his chin, exactly the same thing. We had a conversation, and ended up the conversation about, well, his question was, can I do math in World of Warcraft, right? Because that's the World of Warcraft bar, and so his strength was math, right? He wanted to know, well, what can I do? Can I do math? Of course, that's where we talk about the analytics, the auction house, and how Chris uses the auction house in his accounting and economics class, and so on and so forth. So it was really good. I really enjoyed the time that I was able to spend with everyone, because it was in depth. It wasn't just a superficial, this is what it's about, and then move on. So it was great. Lost my voice, but all worth it.
Is there any other more slides, or did you want something to add to that?
No, I was saying, I said Joseph was not the only one who was losing their voice. Lots of that was really
I think we all do.
the community networks, the playgrounds, a lot of great conversation, but not really good on your vocal cords if you're not used to talking. So next up we have Tuesday. On Tuesday we had This Is Not a Game, learning with alternate reality games. And obviously, as we've already referred to before, you have to have zombies.
And I think the big point of this one was the fact that we basically did a scenario. We had zombies in it, and so it was a zombie scenario, right? But what the discussion at the ending part of the session, and this was a regular, well, it was something like a regular session. But the thing that ended up was we showed like a scenario, an alternate reality game that you could play, and teachers who were in there started to discuss about how they could do it, or how they were already kind of doing it, but they could tweak it some more. And that's where I go back to the teachers realizing they can be game designers. So that teachers realizing that, it is something that they can do, and it's something that they can really also have fun doing.
All right, next up we survived! Yay!
No, it's more like, even though the conference is done, we're not gonna, we're not sunsetting our network, okay?
You mean there's gonna be more to do besides the conference?
We're planning on doing things after the conference too. So we're way over time, so we'll quickly go over things like this. First of all, come into the network, the ISTE site network. We are looking for talent scouts and cool hunters, and we'll tell you more about that there. Okay, go Chris, so we can wrap this up. The summer we will continue on with our metagame, and yeah, and Chris is showing the book and waving the book. Good, Chris. Go ahead, continue on. Yeah, yes, there's words in here.
Or you can get the digital version.
Not electronic.
Yes, you can get the digital version. The other thing that we wanted to say, that it's a network. We've been invited by 3D Game Lab to come to, it's called Quest Boise, and it's online, and it is July 30th and 31st. And if you Google just Quest Boise, you'll find it. It's like the first thing that shows up. So not that difficult. Oh, and their keynote is going to be Lee Sheldon, who wrote the book Massively Multiplayer Classroom. So it will be seriously interesting. Okay, continue. Again, the book club, and now Cam has it up. Blue, did you want to say anything about it, or anybody else?
About what?
The book club.
It's going to be amazing, and I have to correct. It's Book Club Plus.
Oh, okay.
Because even though we are reading, even though the Strand 2, The For the Win by Cory Doctorow, it is a physical book, we're going to be watching videos, we're going to have lots of discussions. Hopefully we can have them in Google Hangouts and we can archive them. For the most part, we'll have like some after hours. I mean, it's not just a book club. It's going to be more exciting things. And I know Sherry with Game Studies is planning so many things. I don't even think 5 weeks is going to be enough for her.
No, it won't be.
But she'll be reading lots of PDFs, lots of educational papers that are the game design studies. These are like the leading professional people that she follows, and that some of them that she works under. So I mean, that will be very exciting if you want to learn more about what game studies is. Like, it's not exactly game design, but it's in the field of learning about what games is and how to make that effective, and a whole bunch of mind-blowing things that I can't even put to words.
Okay, so continuing on.
Yes, I kind of feel like Billy Blanks, but wait, there's more!
Yeah. There's more. Okay. The other thing is the Veg Awards will be happening this summer, so stay tuned. We will tell you more about it as things get announced. Oh, in fall 2014, November 14th and 15th, we will be doing the Minecraft Unsymposium, which is in Google Hangouts and is also on Minecraft servers. So get ready for that. And basically, here's our social media that we'll be using. So we'll be seeing you guys on the ISTE network site, and we'll be seeing you online, and we'll be seeing you in these social networks. So that's basically our wrap up for our this is for ISTE 2014. So any parting words from anyone before we wrap it up?
Gosh, you can say more than I can see this picture. What else can you say?
I'm leaving.
Okay, Alberto.
Sounds like you have to leave the office.
Yes,
I have.
Slide here is I has hammer.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm leaving.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to be locked in overnight, so.
Oh, okay. Then you better get out of there.
Guess someone dropped a hammer on me.
Oh.
Go find a game you love, play it, and teach with it.
Cool. Cool parting words. Anybody else?
Join us.
Waiting for the resistances.
Yeah, there's no point in resisting.
Resistance is futile.
Actually, I think my parting word would be, it's not just a game. Because I've actually had to use that with my own faculty.
That's so deep, Izzy.
But unfortunately, that's how it's viewed as too often, that it's just a game. So it prevents them from going any further or giving the possibility of entertaining the possibilities. So.
Okay. If no one has anything else, then we're wrapping up. Only 17 minutes longer than we should be. So thank you.
We did start a little late too.
And
so
anybody who's still watching, thank you.
The director's
Thank you very much.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And on behalf of the Games and Simulation Network, officers, volunteers, and friends, we like to thank you very much for this. And we will be sending out more things. And like we said, we're not sunsetting. So thank you guys very much. And we're ending broadcast now.